Folks, well, that was a little bit of a surprise. I got a text from Bergie late last night going, "Hey, do you mind if Carolyn joins?" And I was like, Carolyn Uyghur from the show. Like I did not expect to get that text message. So I was like, hell yeah. And we thought we were only going to talk to her for 20 minutes and then it lasted for an hour. So I know this is longer than most of the shows that we do. But once again, Bergie, man, thank you so much. That was a dream come true. And I just want to also point out, she was so nice in like, cause I'm furious with Danielle right now. And she was very nice about that. And she seems like she doesn't have tons of residual anger like some players.
And I think Carolyn, just as a person, like she already knows Danielle's getting enough hate. Why pile on that hate? You know, like,
well, having said that, I'm going to start hating I'm going to pile right on the, no, listen, I think that is an important thing to know, but Bergie, you have to you watch these shows too. That's like part of the magic of these shows is that they get you upset. Like I was legitimately bummed on Thursday when I saw this. I was so sad.
And I was angry too. And now that we're even talking about this, I was just thinking like in movies, I don't get that mad at like when the bad guy's doing a bad thing. But in this show, my heart's beating out of my chest. I'm going, what the hell just happened? Why did Danielle not get banished? Why is she on the floor freaking crying, having like a shaking panic attack? I cannot take this anymore. Get rid of Danielle. Like, well, I am so angry about that.
See,
I don't get that feeling in movies or TV shows. I'm getting it in reality.
Wait, you didn't get that feeling in Captain America last week?
I did not get that feeling at all in Captain America last week, but I'm getting it on Traitors.
Oh, wait. Really quickly before we get into the Traitors, what happened to your car? I saw you posted on Instagram, and it looks like your whole front bumper came off, and it sounded like you had a hell of a week. What happened?
Oh, it was a hell of a week. So I dropped Taylor off at the airport Tuesday morning. Came back home, and then I was like, okay, I have an anatomy exam today, so I'm going to leave to go to school early, left to go to school early, and a car just pulled up right in front of me. They were in the left turn lane on like a highway, and then they just turned right in front of me, and I hit them going like 45 miles an hour.
Did they have insurance?
They had insurance. My car is covered, thankfully.
Thank God.
And honestly, the amount of money insurance gave me, I did not think my car was actually worth that much. So it was actually...
Don't say that, Bergie. Don't say that. Your car. Don't say that, man.
Yeah. But obviously, I still would prefer to have my car right now. But it hurt. Like I had some low back pain, some knee pain, but it's all good now. But then later on, I just had a hell of a week. It was a fun, eventful week.
Well, having said that, I want to remind people that Bergie is on Cameo. Also, Bergie is doing the Cruise of Deception in April. And the more, like, April's a stacked month for me already, but it's also my birthday month. And part of me is like, do I go on the Cruise of Deception? Because I am so into this game. Like, I want to play this game now. I know I wouldn't be able to choose, but I don't think I could be a traitor, but I might be able to be a faithful. I don't know. But if you guys want to play this game on the high seas, I put the show, the link to this in every episode. Go join. Like if you have some, like, I know times are tough for everybody, but if you do have some extra money, this is probably how I would spend it. So go to the Cruise of Deception, go get a cameo from Bergie, go follow him on Instagram. And also I want to say thank you for everybody that reached out to say how amazing Bergie's girlfriend is, because she is. What is her Instagram handle?
Taylor 98 Smith. And like last week we posted like, let's see if we can get her up to 95,000, because Taylor's been
did we do
grinding. We did it. She's at 95.2, I think.
Okay.
But we got to
do not unfollow her, guys, just to pull a prank on her. Do not unfollow her.
But we got off of Love Island together, and when we got off of Love Island, her Instagram got disabled, and that's like when your biggest traction happens. She got flagged for, what was it, impersonating a celebrity. And
who was she impersonating?
Herself. Like, so someone reported her
very tricky
for impersonating herself. So then her Instagram got banned for like 6 weeks right after Love Island.
Which is when you get your most follows, when you're on TV or right after.
When I got off of Love Island, I had 30,000 followers. And in the next 3 weeks after Love Island, I had 110,000 followers by the time I got back from Scotland. So Taylor lost, a great margin of followers where she, could have reached 100,000 followers 2 years ago, but she's been slowly grinding her way up to 100,000. And I saw you're also at 94.5, 94.6.
Dude, I find because there'll be like times, and I know you're like rolling your eyes at home or if you're watching this, but it actually, for what we do, it kind of matters. Like, it's the way to get the word out about the pod, and it's a way to like make my stupid silly jokes. But like sometimes, I don't know, like it's called like shadow banning. So if I say something in a post, sometimes you'll realize, and you can see it on the metrics, you'll see that it's like a siphon being turned off where nobody is seeing your posts. Like your friends will, or you're like, oh yeah, I still see you, but they'll put in front of you certain people, like just like when you don't just randomly see it, it's an algorithm. So sometimes if you do something bad, I've gotten a couple strikes against me over the years, and for like 3 months, you're just like in the woods, in the desert, you know?
Yeah, and like even though I have 170,000 followers, if I ever get shadow banned, which I think I have, or I just wasn't active for a long period of time. So let's say I didn't post something for a month and then I go on Instagram and try to post it, like only 10,000 of my followers are going to see that post I just posted.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of all 170,000. So it's just like, but anyways, Taylor's been grinding super hard trying to get to that 100,000, working hard, doing all this fashion content and everything. So we're gonna get her to 100,000 by the end of the year, especially with
let's get Taylor to 100, and let's get her back on this show because she was amazing.
And get Ryan Bailey to 100,000.
I'll take it after Taylor. But this episode 9, A Silent Assassin, and obviously what you just heard from Carolyn is that this is the fall of Carolyn. And listen, this is how the show is edited together. I will say, last week it was so funny. The week before was so exciting. This week, and I think probably, I just want to be honest, my feelings are clouding my judgment. To me, this was potentially the weakest episode, but I think it's just because I didn't like the outcome. What do you think? Because you're more logical than I am.
Oh, jeez. I think it's just the downfall of Traitors. Like, this is like, the show is so good in the beginning. Like, we talked about this earlier too. Like, the show starts off so strong. Same thing with season 2. Like, you have all these amazing characters, and then the amazing characters go out first, and then you're left with I don't want to say the scraps of the season, but like the people that, you have the worst faithful that don't do the best gameplay. Like, we lost Wes, Derek along the way. We lost Boston Rob. We just lose so many great characters in the beginning of the season. And then you get to the end and it's like, okay, this is what's left. Can they do anything? And I think it's just, the castle's probably not as exciting. And we also heard from Caroline, like, Ivar was like done. That actually kind of pisses me off. Sorry. Him being done with the game. Same thing with Dolores. Like, I mean, like, if you're there, play the game. One of my favorite sayings is be where your feet are. Like, if you're somewhere, be present. So hearing that, I'm like a little bummed out too. So I was just like, dang it. So like the last people that are really playing the game are Tom Sandoval, Dylan, Danielle, and Brittany.
Well, no, and I think Gabby to a degree. I think Gabby's Gabby. Under the radar, and I love it. But to me, it's like a confederacy of dunces in some ways. Is that it's just, guys, the people that are still playing the game, like, even if you love Tom Sandoval or hate Tom Sandoval, he's only right about 25% of the time. So he's still throwing out some wacky moves. Him voting Dolores in that final roundtable, once again, and Dolores voting for Tom, what a bunch of wackadoodles, what wasted votes when you have the task at hand. We have these two presented, Danielle or Carolyn. And the thing that infuriates me is if we had just gone a little harder, they would have still been able to get a traitor out if they had voted Danielle. You would have still had that victory moment at the end.
Yeah, and like, I agree with you. Like, Tom and Dolores voting for each other pissed me off. Like, I was sitting there and going, what the hell are you guys
what good are you?
Come on. What's the point of you being there? It's just like, it's obvious. It's either, you have two options. It's either Danielle and Carolyn. Like, choose one or the other. Even if you don't think one of them is a traitor, do not burn your vote. It's like the most aggravating thing to watch, especially at the end of the game. Like, I understand like there's some strategy to it in the beginning, but at the end of the game in this kind of episode environment, it's like, don't do that.
So I've had to really check myself over the last day because, my initial reaction, very upset, very pissed at Danielle, really upset because, and then I was like, I'm trying to really think, like, okay, but she's still there. That's the argument, right? So she's still there. She's still in play. So is this considered good gameplay? And I keep going back to, like, I still don't think this is good gameplay because if you are literally, The thing is to get out faithfuls. You're now just getting out traitors. Like the fact that they couldn't come together or have any basic sort of an agreement, Carolyn and Danielle, to go after one faithful in the turret. Now, of course, this is edited down. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But like, where is like the deep thinking on, okay, we've got to throw suspicion on Dylan and this is how we're going to do it. Like, I need the traitors to have a plan instead of the plan just to get out the other person in the turret, which to me is the easiest because you have the most easy argument if you're trying to get out a traitor. You know you're right when you throw suspicion on them, and you have these examples of like, well, look, Carolyn's all nervous all of the time and she remained quiet and she goes into this like Forrest Gump persona. That's an easy argument to make. I want to see somebody in that round table go after a faithful. They've done it a handful of times, but not nearly as much as they should have.
Yeah, well, and I do want an incentive. I've seen so many things about like how the game should evolve, but I even saw like Traitors has a lot of money. If you make it to the end with another traitor, you and the other traitor get $250,000. So that way you're not churning on each other. Or I don't know. There's just got to be some sort of incentive for the traitors to work together and the faithful to work to get the traitors out. I hate seeing traitor on traitor. Like I don't know what that gameplay switch needs to be, what incentive needs to be in there, but just something to help the game out just a little bit. Because like that's the one thing I would change. Other than that, like the show's perfect.
So we got Trishelle out. That was the murder in front last week at the beginning of the episode. And now they're in the turret, obviously. And you can really tell this relationship is on its last legs. They do not trust each other. But like I told Carolyn, it was just very frustrating because Danielle, just every time Carolyn would suggest something, she would be like, oh, fine, Carol. I don't even know. I mean, like, I guess I have to do this to win your trust. Yeah, because you backstabbed her multiple times. So you do. But the fact that it's all huffing and puffing, and now in Danielle's talking head, she's acting like the kingpin all of a sudden and like, I know what I'm doing. Like, you have played the sloppiest game up to this point, but now she sees a clear path because she knows she can throw Carolyn under the bus this episode.
Also, too, something I was conscious about was not sounding like having a huge ego when I was in my like a talking heads. Like, Danielle has like this biggest ego I've ever seen, like in her talking heads. Like, I am this master game player. Well,
it's either that or crying in her talking head. She does both.
She does
be
both.
Really confident or like, I hope they forgive me. I hope they forgive me. And I don't buy when she's like, I hope they forgive me. I buy the confident one.
Yeah, I buy the confident one. I'm moving the chessboard exactly how I've planned it. I have planned it 9 episodes ago, and this is how it's supposed to go. And it's hard to watch that when you know that they're not playing a good game. But like, how has Danielle made it this far too is another question that I think, some people are talking about. Like Sierra and Trishelle have mentioned like she's swearing on her kids and they didn't know how to deal with it.
So maybe it is,
yeah, and maybe it is just the cast. Like, she was able to manipulate the right people in the cast and keep them around for the long run. And I'm just hoping it backfires and bites her in the ass.
I mean, I think we'll talk about our predictions for next week, but I do think that when you swear on your grandkids, like, listen, that's, on Housewives, there's always this rule of do not talk about the kids. It's always thrown out. Do not talk about the kids. Even on Jersey, especially, don't talk about the kids. So I understand on Housewives, there's different rules. On the game situation, like, listen, going back to like, what was it, Johnny Fairplay on Survivor when he lied about his grandma dying, which, by the way, his grandma actually did die 2 weeks ago.
I saw that.
So rest in peace, Grandma Fairplay. But that is a known strategy. So I'm not necessarily, I understand that's a part of when you're a gamer, that's part of the strategy. But I do have to say, I'm worried, like I said earlier, for future generations of this show because they're going to come in and it's going to get a lot messier because you're going to see reality TV housewives start doing the same thing. And then it's going to be like all hell breaks loose. So I don't know, like, what do you suggest? Like, should there be more rules when it comes to the traitors, especially when we get in these late stage episodes, especially when they're going to bring out the seer, which we'll talk about in a second? What do you think to make this last part exciting and have it not eat itself?
I'm curious to see how the seer move is going to go.
Explain to the audience what the seer is.
Well, from my understanding, the seer is someone that like I think it's going to be in a challenge. That person is going to win the seer ability, and I get to pick out of like the 4 people left in the game. I can pick one of them and say, is this person a traitor or a faithful? And they'll be this person is a faithful. So then I can take that person all the way to the end and banish everybody else and be like, we're both faithful. I had the seer ability. We're going to be good, just like CT and Trishelle. But, you know, if I didn't ask to see this person, or is this person a faithful or traitor, then I don't know where I'm going with this, but
I'm just saying they did. This has not been used in the American version, but they did use this in the UK version, the seer. So it has been used before, but it is weird that they're using it this late in the game. I feel like I don't know necessarily what the strategy is just from a production angle for this, because I feel like it's such an like you could really. I mean, I guess it's throwing the game in disarray, but you're going to be able to like pick up a win really quickly, whoever gets that challenge. Unless, you know, well, here, let's just jump to the end. Obviously, Brittany gets recruited next week from Big Brother. Danielle has this obsession with Brittany, and Brittany seems to really love Danielle as well. But will Brittany accept the recruitment, or will she say, no, murder me? What do you think?
I think she'll accept the recruitment, and because like I don't even think you could actually say murder me and leave, because well actually I don't know how it works, because like if you said that, like I think they just let Danielle try to recruit again, because you need.
See, I think Alan said. Didn't Alan say at the end of the game you get recruited or you die?
Yes, but I think they would give Danielle another ultimatum to another faithful. So like one person would die, one person would get recruited. Because like what would happen then? Danielle goes to the round table and then gets banished. Then the show's over there.
Yeah.
Realistically, nobody would get murdered, and then So I think Brittany's got to accept it. I don't think production would let her get murdered, or if they do that, then Danielle's just going to recruit again. So I think Brittany's going to take it. Because I think they would have already shown. I don't know, but I think.
But this is what is going to like be the interesting part of the game, because at the very end, Brittany finally starts to realize once Gabby says, "Oh, this feels a lot like Boston Rob and Bob the Drag Queen, traitor on traitor violence," right? So this feels a lot like that, and Brittany's like, "Whoa." Oh my God, is Danielle lying to me as well? Can I not even trust her? And then she gets the letter for recruitment, and the show ends with like, you know, the traitor in the cloak, which is obviously Danielle, and Brittany walking up, and we're going to have that moment. But I will say, is she really then kicking her game into an actual high gear, and she's picking Brittany because she will be able to do a double bluff and get Brittany out and peg her as the traitor instead of her? Because I think this moment, she now has the most heat on her, because Gabby's picking that up. Everybody's going to start picking that up, that was very Boston Rob and Bob the Drag Queen. And that's why you don't want traitor on traitor violence.
And I do think they picked it up. I do think Danielle is recruiting Brittany, because I bet there's maybe a rumor in that castle right now that there is a Big Brother traitor, because there hasn't been a Big Brother traitor that's been caught this year. But in the first 2 seasons, there was Cody, who was from Big Brother, that was a traitor, and then there was Dan from Big Brother, that was a traitor. So I bet there's like a rumor that Brittany or Danielle has to be a traitor. So I think Danielle's recruiting Brittany to make her a traitor, and then if she banishes her in this next episode, she can be like, look, we got the Big Brother traitor out, and we'll see how this goes.
Wow. Okay. So I'm really curious. I mean, we are getting down to the wire. So the traitors finally agree on killing Sam Ashgari. And, you know, it came down between like Sam and Dylan. And, you know, they even talk about like Sam was actually starting to become not a threat, you know, but he was actually logical about this game. But obviously Dylan comes off as the most faithful. So it was like kind of a crapshoot. Do you think they made the right decision on the murder?
Yeah, since Dylan is their ally, I would say yes to both of them. But they both also had to use Dylan because he was a number for their vote. But I would say Sam was definitely the best pick for murder tonight, because he was becoming more aware. And what we heard from Carolyn, like Ivar really wasn't playing anymore, and Dolores not really playing anymore. I think Sam was probably the next best bet.
And Dylan, you know, is also he's very cognizant by the end of this episode that he is getting used by these 2 traitors or 1 traitor. And that's why it was really hard for him between Carolyn and Danielle. We do have a question from Ashley Joy Parker for you, Bergie. Question for Bergie. Something that has always bothered me. At brunch in the mornings, the last two people to walk through the door are always the two faithfuls the traitors were considering murdering every season. Haven't the faithfuls picked up on the fact that it is never a traitor themselves who walk in last? To me, that's so obvious.
They told us on season 2 that they were going to change that up, and they did. They had Parvati walk in, I think, at least last once, and maybe someone else. But I know Janelle, when she came in one morning for breakfast, she was like, guys, I was just last to breakfast. I really need to get the shield today. And that's why I think she got in a fight with Ekin-Su over the shield, because she was worried she was going to get murdered. Because when they also do that, when you're one of the last two to walk into breakfast, you are at least talked about the night before by the traitors too. Your name was mentioned. So this is
something that even the faithfuls or the people at that table, they're aware of, that this was happening in a sense.
Oh yeah,
you were paying attention to who was walking in last, who was walking in first.
Yes, but we also, production did tell us they were going to have traitors walk in last this year, or during my season, because of season 1, and we picked up on it before the show even started. They were like, okay, just to let you guys know, don't assume that, because we will put traitors in last. And I think when Parvati came in, they did a group of 3 instead of a group of 2. So, but we were aware of that, looking out for that. But then, Janelle was saying, guys, I came in last, and I was like, okay, is this a double bluff? Like, or is she like, can I really trust Janelle right now?
God. Okay, so that's interesting. So thank you for the question. I appreciate it. And so at the breakfast, obviously it's Gabby and Carolyn that walk in first. And Gabby is the one who brings up Danielle. I'm suspicious of Danielle, Gabby says. And, I can't watch her breakdowns at the round table. So this wasn't Carolyn. This was Gabby. And Carolyn's like, yeah, I don't understand how people are believing it. So she kind of throws in a comment. Then Brittany from Big Brother and Sandoval are next. Tom's asking, what do you think? And there's a knock at the door. And Gabby's like, that sounds like a girl. It's not. It's Lord Ivar. He has a knock that sounds like a girl, which was a funny moment. We have a new bad hat from Danielle, loving wearing really bad hats. Danielle, at this point in her talking head, this is what we're talking about. Cocky Danielle says, I'm a natural strategist. I'm always 20 steps ahead, which is like funny. I don't know. I mean, believe what you want to believe, I guess. Maybe she's still there, so maybe she's right. I don't know, but it just didn't, it made me laugh more than go, oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's just like, again, doing the talking heads, I did not want to have like a huge ego where people were like, oh, he's so dumb. Like, he thinks he's so good at this game and he's not. Like, that was one of my biggest fears doing those talking heads. So to her to have the big ego and then being played a terrible game is like something I would never want to do.
I just keep thinking about Danielle and Carolyn, and it's like, I think, if you really are rooting for Danielle, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but I think it kind of also lines up with the type of personality you are. First off, you might even just be a huge Big Brother fan, and that's why you're rooting for Danielle. I have not, it's a blind spot for me. So I do not have that kind of loyalty, even though I've really grown to like Brittany, actually. I don't have that same loyalty, but I do watch Survivor and all the reality shows. So but also I think there's something in Danielle is potentially just doing anything, even if it includes crying, kicking, screaming, anything to stay there. And I just have never loved that as a game move. And I'm also going to go for the underdog. So I do want to admit that I realize that about myself. Are you the same, Bergie?
I would say, yeah, I like what you just said, like doing anything to stay there when you probably don't deserve to stay there. I think that would bother me too, like swearing on your kids and like doing the utmost to make sure you stay there would kind of bother me when you're not playing. Like, I want to see people that deserve to be there.
Yeah, and that's why I think, when we come down to the end of this game, it's very hard. Even though I do say I did like the story that the show told at the end last year with CT and Trishelle. I thought that was a nice story, and then to get Mercedes out, love you, Mercedes, but it was a very comical moment because she took it so hard. But this whole episode is kind of like shackled down with Danielle and Talking Head saying Carolyn's going to make a move on me, so I have to plant seeds, and Carolyn realizing that Danielle's coming for her. So that really takes up so much of this episode, and there is no other places that any spotlight is put on except one time Tom is like, dude, Gabby, I still think Dolores, dude, she's crazy, dude. Like, that's the only suspicion that we have on somebody else in this episode.
Yeah, well, and we did get some really good Dylan highlights of him highlighting, oh, Carolyn slipped up here, Carolyn's slipping up here. I think I need to go for Carolyn today. And he was like, I wasn't going to go for Carolyn, but now I have to because of how the chess game played out.
Dylan, what is going on with the Efron family? Why do they all have washboard abs? This has got to be DNA and genetic. It's like weird. All the Efrons have like just really weird washboard abs. It's not fair.
That's not fair at all. But how tall is Zach and how tall is Dylan? We might have them beat there.
I don't know. Maybe 5'3", 5'4". No, they're probably all 6 foot. Anyways, Lord Ivar comes in. Ivar seems like a nice guy, but he's kind of a waste of a character to me. And he's not doing tons, but he's a warm body. Dolores comes in. And we find out that Sam Ashgari was the one that got sent away. Alan comes in looking like what is that character from Rugrats that what was it?
Oh, I didn't even think of that. But like,
what was it?
I know what you're talking about.
Well, it starts with a C. She looks like exactly that. He has that hair, but he also says about Sam leaving. He's like, "This ain't no fairy tale. You're gonna have to work for it." Isn't that Britney Spears lyrics to "You Gotta Work, Bitch"? You gotta work.
I don't know.
I think that was a Britney Spears dig, which I thought was kind of funny in regards to Sam Ashgari. Dylan now at this point realizes that he's going to be brought to the end because they know these traitors can take me and then they're going to backstab me. So he realizes it's got to be somebody I'm close with. And at this moment, he is more leaning towards Danielle, I believe. This is when Gabby and Tom are talking about Dolores. And Carolyn, I don't know, we just keep getting talking heads from Danielle going, Carolyn, I'm coming for her, and she has no idea. She doesn't see me coming. So we just keep getting these same talking heads. Dylan is talking to Gabby and says, I think you would have killed me by now if you were a traitor. And she's like, 1,000%. And Gabby has the funniest talking head about, I've been accused of being a traitor so many times by Dylan, but mark my words, girls, they always come back. They always come back, which I thought was so fun. I mean, she's a star to me. She's so funny.
Yeah, and I'm mad that I forgot about her. I want Dylan and Gabby to win this game and
take out Danielle. You know what? I'm switching to you. That's who I want. And by the way, I'll even go one further. I want just Gabby to win the game. I like Dylan, but I want Gabby.
You know what? I actually wouldn't be mad with that either. If Brittany gets out and then she has to recruit, or Daniel gets out and then Brittany does the ultimatum to recruit Gabby and then Gabby wins the game, I'll take that too. That'd be awesome.
I still think there's a possibility Sandoval wins this though, because I just don't see how he's not out there doing press and the rest of them are. And I just feel like they feel like he's going to put his foot in his mouth. I mean, I know that's not looking at the footage, that's looking at behind the scenes. But to me, it seems like he wins or he almost gets really close because it is coming down to the wire here.
Who else wasn't doing press? Wasn't there another player not doing press too?
Well, I mean, Carolyn hasn't done tons of press, what I've noticed. Brittany's been at events. I saw Dylan at events. Lord Ivar hasn't done any press, so maybe Lord Ivar wins.
Could you imagine a Tom Sandoval and Lord Ivar win? That would just end. That might end Traitors as a program.
That would, but yeah. By the way, what if they're like, we're done? We realize this is hard. This is too hard.
Alan's like, nobody wins. Just go home.
Yeah, like, have they ever given up on a reality show like right before the end? But Dylan says you have to reevaluate everyone, even your most trusted allies. And so he's talking to people one-on-one. Dylan talks to Carolyn and says, hey, are you still on Danielle? And Karen's like, yes, but I think she's a traitor, 1,000%. And Carolyn says, if I go that way tonight, vote with me. But once again, I want to say this was not Carolyn bringing this up. This was Dylan. And so you can tell, even just hearing from Carolyn, she's letting other people like bring that. And then that would be your natural reaction as a faithful of like, okay, you're bringing this up to me. I think I trust you. I think she is, right?
Yeah, and I think it's just a great way to let Carolyn know, like, okay, there's numbers here. Now I can attack. Because, like, it's hard to, like, get other people when they already have, like, their priorities. But if they're coming to you saying, let's get this person out, it's way easier to be like, okay, now I can attack with you instead of attacking alone.
Yeah. Carolyn is happy that Dylan is finally hearing what she's saying in a talking head. But she's like, I want to throw Danielle's name out, but I don't know if I have the votes. Carolyn asked Dylan, how many people are still here? And Dylan's smiling like 8, because I think he's smiling because, oh, that's an idiotic question. You don't even know how many people are here. She damn well knows how many people are there. So I thought that was a fun moment that Dylan bought into. And Carolyn's like, fuck, I'm so fucking scared.
Mhm.
We cut to Brittany and Danielle talking about the kind of the same thing. And Danielle says, oh my God, thank God you're still here. Oh my God. They hug and they're crying. And this relationship between them has taken like this, I don't know, it's very just lovey dovey. And I do want to point out, there's like a lore with them because of Big Brother, is that she allegedly, or Danielle felt thrown under the bus by Brittany during Big Brother reindeer games because Brittany made it hard for her to win a challenge or the $100,000. And I will say, because I was watching somebody recap that episode or that season and saying that even then she was talking about she needed this money for her grandkids. So this does seem like a strategy that Danielle does put into play not, by the way, it's also probably real. You do need money for your grandkids, right?
Yeah, and you need money for a car. Like everybody needs money though.
Yeah. Hey, your whole bumper can get torn off your car, you guys. People need money.
Any moment. Like you need that 250 grand. Like you got to use it on everything. Your grandkids, your kids, my future grandkids. I Taylor's gonna have kids one day, so I need this money. I have my kids.
Danielle in a talking head says, the guilt is killing me, you know? Like, I mean, like, I don't even like lying to Brittany. I want Brittany to be a traitor so bad and cross the finish line with her. And this is where also, like, just in terms of the edit, it does make, like I said, Danielle's probably a great, but it makes her seem cuckoo. Like what? Like you love now Brittany this much that you want her to be a traitor and cross the finish line with her, which also then goes against her actual thing about keep telling Caroline, girl, I want to go to the end with you. No, you didn't. Stop lying.
The thing that just pisses me off the most is lying in the talking heads. Like, why are you lying in the talking heads? Like, you're saying like, Caroline, I just need you to trust me. And then the next episode, you're like, which is like maybe a day after, like we get a whole week. Like last episode, like this would be yesterday. Danielle's going, Caroline, I just need you to trust me in a talking head. The next day, she's going, Brittany, I just want to take Brittany to the end and cross the finish line. It's not adding up. And like, why would you want to split $125,000 with somebody else? Why not take the $250,000 all for yourself? I truly think her plan is to get Caroline out. And then what she did, and then recruit Brittany, and then get rid of a Big Brother player. And look, we got rid of the Big Brother player, and like, I'm safe now. Like I think that's her big plan, but she just is not saying that in her talking head.
Yeah, and I would be very suspicious at this point if I was close to Danielle at all in any sort of way. And I think Brittany realizes this at the end potentially, but we will see. Now, on to the mission. It is like a human chessboard, and they are the pieces. And then there's like these big traitor pieces that can like twirl around and move. And it was like cool. And Alan's like, traitors. We asked a series of questions about you. Your job is to decide who you think, which traitor gave the answer. And if you correctly guess it, the answer provides $5,000 to the prize pot. And so Danielle and Carolyn both had to give these answers, but it's like they have to really think about this because they don't want to throw suspicion on them by their answers. And then we have two queens of the game returning. We have Kate Chastain and Parvati Shallow coming back, and they are dressed to the nines. But listen, I love both of them so much, but I thought I just wanted to see them more in it. They just kind of had side comments, right? Like they're so good.
They're so good, and it's hard because like I wanted more from them too, and it's just like I do love seeing them come back. But if you're gonna bring someone back, I want all of them, not just a little bit of a cameo. Like I want the full thing. So that was the tough part, but I did really enjoy this challenge overall. I thought it was a great challenge, and this is a challenge that should come back for future seasons.
Bergie, I agree about the challenge, even though I thought the dolls and the bugs were more fun to watch. Mm-hmm. I do like this challenge. But what about this? What if you brought back Parvati and Kate or anybody in the future, and this is what you do, is that you don't tell them anything about the game or who the alliances are, who they're a suspicion, and you let them sit at that night's round table and ask whatever.
But do they get to vote? Or
They don't get a vote, but they get to be like, well, what about this? Well, what about this? And they actually have to draw out of the faithfuls or even the traitors what is going on? Like, why are you so mad at him? And have them have to fight their case almost like a judge, even though they have no votes. But it would be great to hear somebody just like thrown into this, not participating in the game, but like just bringing more information out. So you get it to be like, well, why aren't you then looking at Tom? Like, well, maybe we should look at Tom. Like, I think it would just add another element. I know that's a crazy suggestion.
no, that would be really fun, but you need the right person to do that. Like that would have to be Phaedra Parks could pull that off. Like not many people. Like I couldn't pull that off. I couldn't come back for a guest appearance and pull that off. I'd just be sitting there sweating like with everybody else. But like there's certain players that definitely could that have played before to just stir up the pot. Kate would be perfect for that.
Yeah, no, she would be. Okay, so this whole thing is like a game of chess, and there's like that series of questions. And the first one is who is the person flying under the radar? And they answer Brittany. And, you know, Sierra was the first person that said that Brittany is flying under the radar. They asked the group, and I believe they get this one, correct? That they won this one?
Yes, Brittany was flying under the radar. And I think that was Danielle then had her talking head and said, like, this is all part of my big plan because I'm going to use that for Brittany later or something like that.
So, yeah, but they get $5,000. And Danielle is like, we won the money and no one suspects us. You know, that's in a talking head. Who is the biggest threat to the traitors? And this piece is a skull. And then we cut to the turret and they say it's either Dylan or Ivar, but let's pick Brittany again. So they're trying to like fool the faithfuls. And Tom, of course, votes for himself, saying, like, I'm the biggest threat, which is very Tom Sandoval coded and also very funny. And Parvati and Kate are like, of course he's going to vote for himself. That was funny. And Tom says, dude, at the last expulsion, I got everybody to work together, dude. I got evidence. It was me, dude. So they moved the piece to his name. But the traitors pick Brittany, and Tom is shocked. And they're like, oh my God, we've been bamboozled. They start to realize we might be being bamboozled by the traitors. And Danielle says that move was to protect my game because Brittany won't suspect me because she knows she's my girl. And she knows I don't find her a threat at all. This is what I'm talking about, man. Danielle now is all of a sudden playing a very solo game, not tied with Carolyn at all. And I wish they would have flashed back to that moment of that decision because she really is playing this very selfish game instead of allowing them to play as traitors together.
Yeah, and I do think she's playing selfishly. Like, I don't think she wants to win this game with Brittany. That's like my biggest issue is like, I just don't believe her.
Well, if she does really truly hold a grudge still from Brittany from Reindeer Games Big Brother, then yeah, she might pull a double bluff and like try to get her out and try to throw her to the wolves.
But like, why lie to the audience? That's the thing that bothers me.
That's the thing that keeps me up at night, Bergie. So we were in the next one is who is the leader of the pack? And in the turret, you have them conferring and it says, if we pick Dylan, that points to us because they're both friends with him and that can throw suspicion on them. So they say, let's say Tom. And then Tom says, I think it's me, dude. And Parvati and Kate go, I don't think being the head of a pack of liars is a good thing. And it's not Tom. It is. Oh no, it's Tom, not Dylan. Wait, did they get this one or not?
No, I don't think they did. But I think this is where Carolyn slipped up and she started arguing for Tom, and then Dylan picked up on it, and it just wasn't a good time to speak up for Tom.
Yeah, which like having talked to Carolyn, I kind of understand her point of view more, but you know, immediately this was hopped on, and it gave more ammunition to Brittany as well. He even said that I'm paying attention that Carolyn has been handpicking these answers potentially. And then whose voice is the most irrelevant? And Carolyn says, it's me. And I think Carolyn, this was a potential mistake as well, even though she does really, truly believe that. It also is one of those things that puts her up for suspicion because they do get this right. The traitors know that they get this right. Dylan says this might be another clue. She is the only one who believes she doesn't have a voice, so she might have framed herself, which is really tricky.
And the way she just went up and said, it's me, but like that's something Carolyn would have done either. I think what really hurt her is when the Tom Sandoval question happened and then it went right to her and then she got them both right off the bat.
I know.
That's what hurt her. but I think her being right about herself isn't. And I like how they got into an argument about who is not listened to the most, and it is Carolyn. Like, as viewers, we'd probably agree with that, with Carolyn's viewpoint as well. And it's just like, it's crazy how that got her ammunition to banish her.
Well, and this is another one of those examples is that, if Traitors were working together, if Carolyn had slipped up and said something out of place, you would have potentially, hopefully had Danielle going, oh, no, I thought this too, and kind of supporting her instead of just saying nothing. And I think that's what I want to see in future seasons is Traitors actually working together to fool somebody else. And we just aren't really seeing that. So it's not as fun of gameplay as it could be. So I wish we had more Parvati and Kate. Dylan in a talking head says, I woke up this morning thinking it was Danielle, but now I'm suspicious of Carolyn. We're in the car ride back, and Danielle's like, everybody feel good? I feel good for the round table. And Carolyn he says, yeah, I feel good. But in a talking head, she says, I'm paranoid and overthinking. What if Danielle set me up? I am freaking out. Ivar gets in the castle and he goes, I'm feeling a cup of tea coming. Yeah, of course. That's all you do on the show is drink tea. Tom, Ivar, and Carolyn are talking. Carolyn says, I don't know who I can trust. Ivar says, I'm very suspicious of Danielle. She's been under the radar so many times. And Carolyn's like, yeah, many people trust her. And, they just dismiss everything she does immediately. And Tom is like, I personally feel we need more evidence against Dolores. Which is just, at this point, what are you doing, dude? Like, we don't need anything against Dolores. You guys are in like this weird one-sided beef with each other. Carolyn just keeps saying to people, if you are a faithful, you don't need to lie. Carolyn leaves. Ivar asks Tom, do you think Carolyn can pull this off? And Tom's like, no, dude. And that's one of the reasons I trust her. And Ivar says, if she is, she deserves an Oscar. I have had the suspicion of Danielle. I don't know if there's enough to get her out, though. That's also a big part of this game, Bergie, is they all say we don't have enough evidence yet. We got to do it at the right time. And sometimes I want to see people do it at the wrong time and risk everything.
Well, and I think we have seen that. That happened to Derek. That happened to Wes, and Wes ate his own game. But that also killed Derek, too. But, there is doing it at the wrong time. I always compare it back to my season, but there was times where I'm like, okay, we're pretty sure it's Parvati and Dan, but why aren't we voting for Parvati and Dan? I'm just hiding in between everybody else's voting pattern right now because I'm too scared to be the one to speak out against the whole group and be against the grain.
Well, now if you do speak out and you are a faithful and you kill it and you make this impassioned speech and you turn out to be right, then people are going to think you're a traitor now. You have to play this so weird.
Especially after this season, you can't just come out of nowhere and banish somebody. So now next season's paranoia is going to be insane. Okay, if I banish somebody that's a traitor, that I might be a traitor. But then if I banish someone that's a faithful, I might be a traitor as well. It's just going to be crazy.
That's what I think. The producers have such a tough job ahead of them. And I'm sure they're probably already done casting for season 4. But they've got to have such a hard time. So we're getting to the round table. Dylan's obviously, it's going to break his heart because it's between Carolyn and Danielle tonight. And he's close to both of them. Carolyn in a talking head says she has to get Danielle before Danielle gets me. Do I just go for Danielle and throw her name out there? So Carolyn's still potentially not sure if she's going to go for Danielle. So they get to the round table. And, the funny thing is, too, we're still having information from 2 episodes ago that I think Boston Rob threw it out that there are 2 girls that are probably traitors. So we have this information, the faithfuls.
I think it was either Sam Ashgari or wasn't it? Then we decide Ivar.
Oh,
it was one of those 2.
Yeah, it was one of them, but they said, I think 2 girls, and they were right, whoever said that. And sorry, before we get to the round table, Ivar's in the kitchen with Danielle now. And this is when Carolyn's name gets brought up again. And Danielle's upset that her name is potentially gotten brought up in a talking head. She's like, I got facts. I got receipts. And Danielle's like, do you remember the Detective Columbo? And Ivar's like, oh, God, yes, Columbo. They never suspect him of being smart because he acted dumb all the time. Oh, that could be Carolyn, and she's never been on our radar. So that puts suspicion there. And we just know this is going to be a battle going in. Carolyn says, what my plan is, I'm not going to even think, just speak. I need to get Danielle out. And this, I feel, is a fatal mistake, that she potentially didn't think more.
Yeah. It's just...
Well, because like,
It's
listen,
so
we don't
hard.
know the edit. We don't know the edit. We don't know what was on the cutting room floor.
Yep.
But it seems like once we get into this at the round table, we could, she has information about like, listen, Jeremy said the name. It's not me. Jeremy said it. Who else heard that? Do you look in my eyes? Do you all remember that? Right? Like, there were specific moments that it's like they said there are two girls. I know me, Carolyn. I'm not one of them. But I think Danielle is. And also then use Boston Rob's strategy of, if I'm wrong, you can vote me out next week.
Yeah, and I think that would have helped. I think maybe even mentioning, like, we've had a Survivor traitor already. That was Boston Rob. We hadn't had a Big Brother traitor yet. It could be Carolyn or not Carolyn. It could be Danielle or Brittany, and I think it's Danielle out of you too. Like, this is how I've gotten to my theory of it's you. Like, the string leads back to you. I definitely think that would have helped Carolyn. I also think too, like, this is like, from me being at the actual roundtable, this is normally how a roundtable is. Like, there was a lot of silence. Like, when we started it, remember how we talked about like the looking at each other, like who's going to speak first? Like, I felt like this was like the most real a roundtable has felt from an audience view from actually being there.
Yeah, totally. So we get into the round table, and the floor is yours. Ivar's like, I'll start. I believe there are two traitors left. And Gabby's like, I don't think we want to jump there yet. And Ivar's like, it's just my opinion. Dylan says, listen, Alan Cummings said something new gets introduced to the game tomorrow, and that may be that you get to ask someone if they're a faithful or a traitor, which is the seer, like we talked about. Gabby says we have to be true to the game now and try to get the traitor out. There's a long pause. Carolyn then starts. Okay, Danielle. Danielle's in a goofy hat again. Carolyn says, as a faithful, we have no reason to lie. None, right? Who here has needed to lie as a faithful? Why on earth did you tell this lie to Brittany? And Daniel's like, oh, yeah, you can tell it. You can tell it. And Brittany's like, well, Danielle told me that Carolyn had said my name. And Danielle's like, you did say her name. And Carolyn's like, that's a complete lie. Remember, didn't say her name in terms of ever getting her out. Said her name in the turret during the coffin thing, right?
Carolyn said Brittany's name in the turret, but not. What do you mean by the coffin thing? I missed.
No,
that.
like, was she one of the ones that they were debating putting in the coffin challenge? It was like Jeremy, Sierra.
Bob the drag queen and Danielle wanted to put Carolyn in the coffin.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. But at some point, Carolyn said the name in the turret, but not in the actual game. So this was like just a lie that Danielle is sticking to. And then Danielle goes in for the kill. This is the truth. You do this whole Carolyn acting silly and dumb and Forrest Gump a lot, and it's an act. And I will say this is upsetting because two things can be true at once. Like, she can actually, like, that's how Carolyn is in real life. Even just talking to her for an hour, and we talked even after we stopped, that is her. That's not an act, but she's also smarter than she ever lets on to. And I think that's a good strategy, but I think that's just her. Like, I don't think this Forrest Gump thing is completely fair.
Yeah. And it felt a little personal, which isn't to say you can't be personal in a game, but it felt like a little bit of a personal dig too.
Yeah. But it's going to Carolyn just like, or Danielle's like, I have no reason to lie. You have every reason to lie, Carolyn. You are a silent assassin. And Carolyn's like, a silent assassin? And Tom is like, there's some evidence there, maybe, but, she advocated for me to go into Rob, Carolyn did. And Carolyn's like, I have the same thing. I've told everyone. Have I ever? I went up to Dylan and asked, why are you ignoring me? And Dylan said, yeah, and I felt like shit. Carolyn's like, I feel like once again in my life, no one is listening. And yes, that made me feel upset. I'm not an assassin. And she starts crying. And the funny thing is, this is what's true. It's like, those are real tears. Like, she does believe that sometimes she is not listened to. She is not insecure. She does have confidence, but she does have this ability where people just, I think she's noticed her whole life, kind of like keep her at a distance maybe.
Yeah. And then just go over her ideas. Like,
yeah,
they keep it like superficial and not deep. And like, she is very deep and very personal.
So they go in on this. Like, this was like, Danielle kept throwing things out. I guess, did have the better argument, but still it wasn't, to me, it still wasn't like the most insanely amazing argument to begin with. So I was like, yeah, I guess if this is the edit, like, yeah, it does seem like Danielle was more confident and secure in this. But I would have just, if I was at the table, I think I would have just kept thinking, well, that's very Boston Rob
Mhm.
of Carolyn. I mean, sorry, of Danielle.
Of
That's very
Danielle,
Boston
yeah.
Rob. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just thinking too. I was just thinking in my head too while you were speaking, but like Bob the Drag Queen and Boston Rob, that whole showdown and how good that was, and like
This
how
wasn't
good
that.
it
This
wasn't
wasn't
that.
that.
It wasn't that at all. So it's just it's crazy to see the contrast of where we've come from and where we are now. Of just like finding ways that someone is a traitor. How good Boston Rob was at it,
Yeah.
and how where we're at now.
We're kind of Monday morning quarterbacking because I feel like if I keep saying things, Carolyn's going to magically get back and win, because I'm just like, what it is it's the fact that like, because I would think that, yeah, if you were a traitor, you would know exactly what you're saying, and Carolyn, seemed like a little all over the place. So anyways, we start the votes and
I just thought like
yeah.
Danielle seemed very prepared for that argument, and that is like the thing that would set me off is like Carolyn came at Danielle, and then Danielle was like just ready to battle it out, like she was prepared on everything she was
Yeah.
gonna say, and that would be a big red flag. And I think I love that Gabby picked up on it.
Yeah, Gabby picked up on it. So we get the votes going, and it's let's see, Carolyn votes for Danielle. Carolyn votes for Danielle. Ivar votes for Carolyn. Dolores votes for Tom. Hello, useless. Danielle she said, I put it all on the table. Carolyn. Gabby votes for Danielle. She says, you both did an amazing job, but I couldn't take your tears. I read them as genuine, Carolyn. Tom votes for Dolores, completely useless. Brittany votes for Carolyn, but says she is by far the most entertaining traitor to watch, if that's true. So we have 3 for Carolyn, 2 for Danielle, 1 for Tom, 1 for Dolores. The deciding vote is Dylan, and he votes Carolyn. And Carolyn, you have received the most votes. Come forward to the circle of truth. Carolyn's still crying. Are you a faithful or a traitor? And she says, I'm someone who every day of my life I'm judged because of who I am and that I'm different and my quirks. I didn't want to connect with a lot of you because I'm an emotional person playing this game. It's not easy for me. I just wanted to have fun, but I have to get real with myself. Being a traitor isn't fun. And they're like, oh my God. And then this is when Danielle literally does like a flagrant foul in the NBA of like falls to the ground. And then she was having a seizure. I knew I was going to fight. And they're like, you did so good. I was going to fight. Like, come on.
It sounded like it didn't sound, but I saw this like meme somewhere. It's like she actually found like an actual serial killer or something, and then like her whole family was dead. Like that's how she reacted to that. And it was so over the top. Like the way she got out of her chair.
I want to see her at the beginning of the
I'm
Scream.
Like,
she needs to do the Drew Barrymore part in the Scream movie. Like even Drew Barrymore is like less panicked than her in that scene.
I'm like, what? Like there's 2 seasons of Traitors already out, and you probably watched every episode like preparing to go. Like, did you ever see anybody react that way, like as a faithful catching a traitor? Like it's just so
see, that's it. To me, it feels like somebody acting, somebody like, oh, what would be the most extreme reaction? And I feel like everybody's just at this point buying it. So there must be some kind of magical force field around Danielle because it reads so clearly that she's a traitor on screen. I don't know. I'm getting confused. I'm trying to be fair, but it is so weird. So anyways, we're done with this. She got one out. She's very thrilled. Everybody's congratulating her. And Gabby then sits at a couch with Tom and who is Tom and Dolores? No, Tom and Brittany, and says, it's giving Rob and Bob the drag queen. Like that's what that was. Gabby's the first person to bring this up. And Brittany in a talking head says, I love Danielle. I love working with her, but can I even trust her? I haven't been murdered. Is that why I haven't been murdered? Because she's protecting me. So they all say goodnight. I will say it's funny. Dolores writes traitor suspects in lipstick. Like That's so dumb also because, you're wrong every time. Like,
you
you're
just
not
pick
ruling
Tom.
the castle.
Like, you're not even looking for traitors. You're just going to banish Tom before you get banished. Well, she's not getting banished because everyone knows she's a faithful. She's either getting murdered or Tom's getting murdered is my top guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, at this point, you've got to now, if you have only that, if we're already done with this round, you have suspicion on one of those two. So Dolores could go, but I think the obvious answer to me is Danielle, but who knows? Maybe she just is a genius at this game. Who knows?
I was just going to say Brittany just got recruited, so nobody's getting murdered anyway.
Oh, yeah. Well, we don't know. Brittany got offered recruitment. We don't know if she takes it. So that is how the episode ends. Alan says, you can recruit or murder, and it looks like she recruited Brittany. We'll find out if Brittany accepts. And even Brittany in a talking head says, would Danielle really recruit me now? It's just so obvious. And then
what I want to see in the next episode, the start of it, like Danielle takes off her hood, and then Brittany's just standing there and goes, "You're an effing idiot. Why would you recruit me out of all people?"
Oh, see, that would be no. You know what I want to see? I want to see her uncloak, and then Brittany falls to the ground, going, "I can't believe it!
You were murdering all my friends.
You murdered everybody." And so next week we get the Seer, which we already talked about, and that's this episode. I will say, I've lost a little pep in my step after this week's episode. I will try to get it back, but I'm very sad. But I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and this is all because of Bergie. Bergalicious does it again. This man is a saint. Go follow him on Instagram. Go get a cameo. Go to the Cruise of Deception, and wish him luck on all of his tests this week, because he's trying to be a real normal person out there with like a real mind, real schooling, all that stuff. He doesn't do this, so we're very thankful.
Well, I want to get good at this. I want to keep podcasting. I love it. So I do want to get good at doing this.
You already are.
Yeah, I already am. I just want to get better at my language. I don't know how to speak correctly.
Dude, listen to me. I still I just go on excitement. I twist words all the time. Like, no, you are doing great, and everybody tells me that. So we will be here next week, folks. Unless Bergie wrecks his car again, and we hope that does not happen.
That's not gonna happen. I don't have a car to wreck, so it can't happen.
What a magical day, you guys. Have a great rest of your weekend. Bye. One sec. Oh.